'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. We'll find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our souls to stay.
How many of you use an 18 MR, a heavy Dean? Only a few. So Mirror Lure has an 18 MR. The lure sinks at 1 foot per second. So when you're fishing a 4-foot flat or a 4-foot channel, you can literally count how many seconds it takes to hit the bottom.
What diameter line are you using for it to sink for a second?
What am I typically using?
And makes the difference.
20 pounds.
And it makes a difference for what kind of line you use.
I use mono so it floats a little bit. If you use fluorocarbon, it'll drag it down. It'll basically sink a foot per second. If you count how long it takes to get to the bottom. So after 8:30, the fish moved off the flat and moved a little bit deeper into the channels. So then you would cast up onto the flat. Now, my retrieve today was very slow and methodical. It wasn't a twitch pause, it wasn't a rip, it wasn't a slow roll. It was basically a lift, and just reel in the slack. A lift, and reel in the slack. And basically the bait was traveling with the tide, and the fish were just coming up and hammering it in the top 6 inches of the water. So, getting into wintertime, this right here is a 14 MR. Small, suspending bait. Works great in the shallows, works great for sight fishing, and also works great in the deeper water in the early hours. So, suspending bait, top 2 foot of the water column. Small. The problem a lot of people have that I find that throw these smaller MirrOdines and the 17 MRs, the hooks are pretty thin. They're not beefy hooks. They're light wire hooks. So how many guys fish with medium to medium heavy rods? How many guys fish with medium light rods? How many guys fish with light rods? How many guys fish with moderate rod tips and not fast? Very few. So when I throw this small bait, it's rigged up on a moderate type rod. And it's got little wire hooks. So when the fish attacks, the rod doesn't rip the hooks right out of the fish's mouth. The rod absorbs all that tension so the hooks stay in. I also keep a very light drag. How many of you change your treble hooks to inline hooks? Do you guys have a problem keeping fish buttoned up, coming off? Do you do anything different to your hooks? No? Do you use a medium light rod? Moderate? Medium? Medium? I'll be honest, I've had a problem with inline hooks, keeping fish buttoned up. Not hooking them, keeping them buttoned up. And the problem I had is because I'm using a medium light, moderate action rod, and the hooks are a lot thicker on the inlines. So my hook sets aren't that great. Because I'm using such parabolic rod, I'm not piercing the fish's mouth. So if you start using inlines and you're having a problem with fish staying buttoned up, go to a heavier rod, medium, medium heavy. So that way when you get the hook set, it actually pierces. But I had a problem. I was testing Salt Strong's suspending twitch bait for a while, and I was catching fish, a ton of fish, but I wasn't getting them to the boat. They had inline hooks. I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized I fish with trebles and my rod type didn't match the hook size.
I found the same thing. Most of the inline hooks that you get are heavier wire gauge, but I found some from China, believe it or not, that are super light wire. And the best rod for it is that ultralight or medium light rod. As long as you keep a bend in the rod, keep pressure on the fish, you're never gonna lose the fish.
Right. I agree. So always check to see, because actually, I don't know, I can probably go through, but MirrOdines sends out black nickel hooks and galvanized hooks. There's a difference, guys. Take a look at the hooks and match it up to what your drag is. All right, so this is what I was fishing with this morning. Catch Junior. Reason I switched from a 17 MR this morning to the Catch Junior is because I wanted to move more water and attract bigger fish. I only had an hour and a half, 2 hours to fish, so I wanted to catch the biggest fish I could. So I moved to the Catch Junior, but some people want to know, well, why do you pick pink and yellow? Or the other day I was fishing with duct tape and shovels. It was gray and black. Why do you fish with certain colors? Anybody have any in particular colors that they like to fish with, no matter what the sky?
White, pure white,
Pure white?
pure white.
18, 21 colors. Both of them are really good colors because they're natural. And you got clear water, it's probably the best thing to use, but in wintertime, just anything with pink, I think works real well.
Pink.
Funky shape.
Anybody else like pink?
I was gonna say pink, but just to reiterate the 18 color there, where it's like I think it's like a trout imitation thing, where it's a darker color up top and that bright shiny flash. When you bring it in, you can spot it.
Pork rinds? Yeah, if anybody knows what pork rinds is, it's pink. It's pink. My favorite color, MirrOdines, is pink. Pink body, brown top, no flash, just painted. I also like pink crinkled paper, which gives off a lot of flash, which is the pork rinds with a dark top. I also like the cracked glass look in pink. Now with MirrOdines, there's so many colors, so many different styles. So like cracked glass, when you move it through the water, it refracts a lot of light at large spectrums. So it's a lot of light. So do you think you'd use cracked glass in very clear water with blue skies? No. Usually I don't either. So basically what I do is I save all my old MirrOdines that are all rough and dulled out, and especially the ones that the rattles don't work in anymore. Anybody else have problems with rattles not working? Yeah. So I save those, and I save those lures for the bluebird skies, clear water days. It doesn't give a lot, there's no rattle, it doesn't spook anything, and I typically have a better time catching fish on that. So they have your painted colors, the cracked glass, they have so many different inserts, but what you have to learn when you're utilizing them is what inserts to what water types. So there's a few of you asked what duct tape and shovels were. This is what I was using Saturday. Just a gray body, black back. Painted, no flash, nothing fancy. Just a gray lure with a black back. I caught over 30 trout in 3 hours, ranging from 12 to 23 inches on this lure. It was overcast, guys, it was windy, and they didn't want any twitch to it. They just wanted a slow roll, and that's it. Very good low light. Another good low light would be anything in the dark purple. How many people fish backcountry? A lot of rivers, creeks, gold, brown, 808. How many use 808? Everybody uses 808. It's one of the hottest colors. How many fish the beach in the springtime, early summer for snow? What color do you like at the beach besides white? 18? What do you like, Bill?
Natural green.
Natural green? I like blue.
I use
I like blue at the beach. Blue and white.
Dark and stormy.
So dark and stormy, which I have, which is a purple top and kind of like a disco silver side with a purple bottom, gives a nice clear flash, but has a dark silhouette as it goes up over the top of a fish. Most of the time for dark and stormy is a slightly overcast, either high clouds or low clouds, or even like what we saw Saturday, heavy overcast. I'll use the dark and stormy. The reason I use it is because it has a dark belly, dark top, and if I roll it over a fish's head, they see that silhouette on the cloudy skies. But if the fish is looking at it from its side, when I twitch it, it shows a little bit of a flash. Chartreuse, if it's not chartreuse, it's no use, right? Yeah, chartreuse is great too. Works pretty much everywhere. Redhead, like a neon green body, cracked glass. I've seen this bait catch more redfish than I care to imagine. When I'm fishing for snook, it's fast and hard typically. Rip, 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 pause. Rip, 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 pause. Every once in a while in the wintertime, slower months, you'll get them on the lift, following the tide like I did this morning. Trout, same thing. In the spring, summer, fall, it's real fast, real fast, real fast. Just get that reactionary bite. Now for redfish, especially sight fishing redfish, it's pretty much a cast out and just let it flutter down until it hits the ground. And then just a slight lift up and then back down. I also like to use specific colors for redfish. More than natural is what I prefer. The reds, the greens, the golds. So we have sheep's head, trout, snook, redfish, flounder. Flounder. If you find a spot that has flounder, most people use soft plastics. Almost everybody uses soft plastics. There's a few spots that I've found that 18 MRs work really good, especially on good high moving water days. Take the 18 MR, cast it out, keep your line tight so you can feel when it hits the bottom and just slowly bounce it off the bottom. Once it's passed, you will be surprised how many flounder you'll catch on a MirrOdine. Most people fish soft plastics. I found Bunce's Pass, Fort DeSoto, an 18 MR totally beats that. Any other questions?
Yeah. I asked you about the leader and stuff. You use a tippet, Jimmy?
Okay.
Leader size?
So typically no. And this is my personal, what I use no matter whether I'm using hard baits or soft plastics. I match my leader size to the type of fish that I'm fishing. I know a lot of people use a bite tippet, it's great, but I typically match my leader. If I know there's big snook in the area, in the wintertime, I'm 25 or 30 pounds, no more. In the summertime, I may go up to 40. Mostly everything I fish with is 15 to 25. Unless I know they're snook, then I'm at 30. But I don't do a bite tippet. Now, in the wintertime, 15 to 20. I'm working everything slow. I'm usually shallow when I fish. In the summertime, if I'm fishing for big snook, then I'm up at 40. I do change. How many of you guys change from mono to fluoro based on where you're fishing and the water types? Anybody? How many fish with strictly mono?
Pretty much.
How many fish with strictly fluorocarbon?
Whatever's on sale.
Whatever I grab out of the tackle box.
All right. How many people have a problem with the front hook and the MirrOdine hooking their line? Yeah, it's a huge problem. So, has anybody tried anything to solve that issue?
Just make the first one smaller, that's all.
Make the loop smaller?
No,
The hook.
The hook? The hook smaller?
in the back.
What did you try?
I just, instead of tying the loop knot, I just tie like a
Clinch
U
knot?
a clinch knot right to it.
with the 5mm lure with props on it, and also with the MirrOdines, I found that if you overwork the bait, work it too hard, twitch it too hard, the bait wants to go ahead of the line because the line has some friction in the water, and when you twitch the bait has a little bit of headway, but there's so much drag on the line that the line stays where it is, particularly if you have a loop knot. You can do one of two things. You can either not twitch so hard, or you can tie a direct knot to it and maybe even tie just a little bit stiffer type of line, whether it be fluorocarbon or just a heavier mono. I use Backcountry copolymer from Andy.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I typically, if I start having a problem, it's usually because I'm overworking the lure. So I usually typically go with a 30-pound mono and I tie a clinch knot. For me, mono seems to float. So when the lure is coming down, the way I work it, everybody's a little bit different.
You wanna hold this a second, George?
Are you using clinch knots all the time, Jimmy?
No, typically I'm using
Loop knot?
loop knot.
Yeah.
So when I fish a MirrOdine, I'm ripping and reeling really quick, typically. But most of the guys that I fish with that fish MirrOdine, they're very methodical. Twitch, twitch, pause. Twitch, twitch, pause. I'm a very erratic MirrOdine fisherman, especially in the summertime. I am rip, reel, rip, reel, rip, reel. The only time I slow down is in the winter. And then it's usually a lift, lift, or a twitch, twitch.
I got a question, actually, this was off back to the Salt Strong break, the skinny lipper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've been using the Moonwalker, Grace's has really good lure, but the skinny lipper, like when I rip it, do I walk the dog with it, or do I pop, pop, let it float back into the surface, pop, let it float back into the surface, pop?
So,
pop, you can do either one.
The skinny lipper for me is much like a MirrOdine 7M, one of my favorite lures. So it's a dive, dive, float, right? Twitch, twitch, float. Twitch, twitch, float. So when you're working it, it's not like a top water. You can work it. The one thing that I found on the skinny lipper is if you get it subsurface 2 or 3 inches down, you could walk the dog with it. I'm telling you, I don't know, how many guys had a hard time walking the dog with top water when they first started fishing artificials?
Still do.
Right? Now take that and try to go 4 inches below the surface of the water and walk the dog without it like going all erratic on you. It's not easy. Guys, hard baits aren't easy. There's a little bit of a finesse to using those hard baits. So when you cast it out, you want to be able to see your lure. And then you're reeling it over the grass. As soon as it gets to the pothole, stop it. Let it flutter down. Right? Twitch it back up, run it over the grass to the pothole, and then let it flutter down. A lot of times you'll catch some really big fish on that flutter down, or as soon as you start to reel, they'll come out and explode on it. But make sure you use bright colors, chartreuse, pink, even dark and clear water. But the reason I was using it was because I could see the contrast when I was working it over the shoals and over the potholes, so I know when to drop it. Any other questions?
You ever use a clip, Jimmy?
Clip? Nope. Straight tie to my lure. No split rings either. Any other questions?
Can you speak to the decoding of the MirrOlure numbers?
Yeah, if you go to LS, get one of their catalogs. They go through every lure, every color, every style, and everything, and it actually helps bring it kind of like all together.
Yes. And really, you have to pick whatever colors you like to fish with. Right? Basically, you just have to look at it and go, okay, I'm gonna use, chartreuse, pink, white, are pretty much the basics, and then a purple. That's really all you need. It doesn't matter the cracked glass, the clear eyes, the red eyes. Really, in my personal opinion, color is the last thing that the fish really wants. Size and action is the first thing that gets the fish to bite. Really, just grab some hard baits, throw them on the rod, throw them out there, utilize them. find which pattern works with it.
All right, thanks, everybody.